Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another new album reaction/review. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new and 15th studio album from legendary Brazilian metal band Sepultura. Now, I feel like it's important before we dive in for me to preface my review by explaining where I'm coming from as a Sepultura fan. I'm one of those old fucks that greatly prefers the Max Cavalera era of Sepultura. I got into them around Arise, and honestly, all of those original albums, all up through Roots, are just amazing, and they've aged so well, and I still listen to them so much today. And when Max Cavalera left and they got Derek Green, I struggled with it, and I've been struggling with my relationship with Sepultura ever since. To be fair, I'm also struggling with my relationship with anything Max Cavalera has done, although I like the last Cavalera Conspiracy album. But other than that, it's all hit or miss for me. And the same goes for Sepultura. So when a new Sepultura album comes out, I'm always going to listen to it because even though I wasn't quite ever on board with anything that's happened since the Max Cavalera days, it's always come across to me as really well done metal. And the thing that I love about Sepultura is the fact that because they started off in that sort of very thrashy world and worked their way into a groove, you could say nu metal kind of territory, at this point, they live in this really interesting area where they can kind of do whatever the fuck they want. And that's pretty fucking cool, because one thing that really gets me on board with an album and a band is when they experiment and branch out and they aren't afraid to take chances. And so because of that, I'm always very interested in what Sepultura has to offer, because it's always really unique and interesting music to me, even if it doesn't necessarily connect with me the way the old shit did. So that brings us to today. The new Sepultura album is called Quadra. Let's talk about it. So the album opens up with Isolation, which is a track that was already released a couple months back. And when I first heard that track, it didn't really give me a great impression of what this album was going to be. Because like a lot of Sepultura songs over the past, 20 years, it sort of just sounded like what I expected. It's fast, it's thrashy, it's got a cool riff, but the riff kind of reminds me of Arise or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, this is good, but it doesn't say much about what the album's going to be. And then track number 2 kicks in, which is called Means to an End. And very quickly the mood shifts to where all of a sudden we've gone from thrash metal to more of a groovy kind of Roots era kind of song. And the rhythmic interplay in this song is so good that it kind of woke me up from just sort of listening to this album and kind of being on the fence about whether I was going to make it. All of a sudden, track number 2, I'm like, oh, okay. Here's that shit I was talking about where they can kind of just do whatever they want. And so, yeah, really solid track. And it kind of just sets the tone for what this album is, which is an album full of fucking ideas. They add so much to a lot of these tracks. Like you have a choir shows up on the song Last Time, and it sounds fucking amazing. And then a string section on the song Capital Enslavement. When these things come in, they sound so perfect for what the song is doing that I don't know. The ideas just start showing up in all of these different songs. Sure, you got a lot of the token Sepultura elements, like tribal drums and those sort of 2-note discordant leads that just happen every once in a while. But I mean, it's fucking Sepultura, so it's almost like even though they're sort of stretching and grabbing for these ideas and throwing you for a loop sometimes, they're still like, hey, we're still Sepultura, remember that? And it's those sort of left turns or abrupt shifts that keep this album so fucking enjoyable and interesting. Even songs that don't really connect with me right away, like Ali, have like a middle section that all of a sudden just brings me back in. So, like I said, there's a lot of fucking ideas. A lot of older metal bands that still make albums today kind of annoy me because they will put out albums where it's just them going through the motions of what I guess they feel their fans expect from them. And so there's no variety. There's there's no surprises, but Sepultura apparently don't fall into that category. There's a lot of variety on this album. There's a lot of surprises. The song Raging Void, it has like a weird time signature thing going on between the drums and the guitar that my brain just couldn't grasp what the fuck was going on. I was literally doing math in my head, counting kicks and snares, but it just made that song so interesting to me because I'm like, what is this? Like, what? So clearly I was enjoying myself when I was listening to this album, which in this day and age, that's a very important thing when a new album comes out. And like I said, the fact that these guys can just pull things from whatever area of metal they want, whether it be thrash, whether it be groove, whether it be progressive, they can just do it and seamlessly work it into their songs. And that alone is a great accomplishment already. And at this point, the point that I'm at in the album, we're only halfway through. So I did read that this album was supposed to be broken up into fourths, so 3 songs, because it's 12 tracks total, and it was supposed to be these different moods, like a thrashy one, a groovy one, a proggy one, and then like a more mellow one. And yeah, I guess I could see that, but I think that's kind of trying to add a little more weight to the album than is really necessary, because the album doesn't seem like it necessarily switches gears. It almost seems like it's kind of a journey that you're being taken on, and it doesn't feel forced. It really feels like the flow of the songs is going in the direction that you feel that they should go. And by the second half of the album, they bring out this song called The Pentagram, which is an instrumental track, probably my favorite track on the whole fucking album, because it's just filled with so many fucking riffs, and the band is so tight. It's just such an enjoyable song, and Derek Green doesn't get to do anything on it, but it's still really, really fucking good. This album does not let you get bored. On top of that, the production is fucking stellar. It sounds really good. Obviously, Andreas Kisser is an amazing guitar player, and his amazing work and riffs are all over this fucking thing. So I have to touch on this now. So the only weak point of the album to me is Derek Green. I don't hate him as a vocalist. He's good, but I feel like instrumentally, what goes on in all of these tracks kind of needs a bit more of a dynamic vocalist. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Derek Green is great. He sounds really good, but sometimes I feel like we need a little bit more. So that's really my only gripe here. But I mean, it's Derek Green, and he's been doing this shit for a while. I mean, he's been the frontman for Sepultura much longer than Max ever was. So at this point, he is a very integral part of the Sepultura sound. So the last fourth of the album kicks in with a bit of an acoustic song, and then there's a song called Agony of Defeat, which does slow it down. And honestly, it's the least Sepultura sounding song on this album, and Derek Green even sings a little bit on it. So even though like it is kind of a shift in mood, it's almost very welcomed, because the album sort of throws so much at you that when they allow a song to kind of open up a little bit, it's actually pretty powerful. And the last track kind of just wraps it up with the same kind of vibe. Still a very strong song, and includes vocals from Emily Barreto from the band Far From Alaska, who are also from Brazil. And that kind of wraps up this journey of Quadra. So the real question is, for an old fuck like me, how does this album stand up to the OG Sepultura shit that I love so much? And the answer to that is, it stands up pretty fucking high. I enjoyed the fuck out of this album. Like I said, performances, amazing. It's just an album that keeps you engaged. There's a variety of songs that is very important to me. And on top of all of that, it made me forget that I was listening to a Derek Green era Sepultura. You know, it's like, it's one of those things where when you're a dude like me, you hear that and you go, oh, this is a Derek Green Sepultura. This isn't a Max Sepultura. But by the second half of the album, I was just listening to a really fucking good metal album. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? Anyway, so if you're an old school metal guy like me, I highly recommend going and checking out Quadra, and then maybe we all move backwards through the Sepultura canon, and maybe the pieces will all start to fit for us. Either way, I'm very happy with this album. I'm probably just going to go listen to it again right now. But yeah, I give it a shot. I highly recommend it. Great new album from Sepultura. It's good to see these guys still out there doing shit. Now, if we could just get Max to put out some other good shit, we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure I'll review whatever he puts out next as well. So, thank you for joining me for this album reaction / review. Please put your comments down below. What do you think of the album? What do you think of Sepultura, either era? What do you think? Yeah. And so, once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you all again very soon.